Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seal of Approval, back at its approved time of 8 p.m. on a Wednesday after the shenanigans of the last couple of weeks. But we have an actual episode filled with things that do you approve. Scrumps here, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm hungry is what I am. Supposed to get food delivered, but it's not arrived. And I think the restaurant's closed now. So,
how long ago did you order that?
Oh, like more than half an hour. Well, actually, about an hour. But I think what happened is the network. Like I think Uber's network went down. So,
now Uber Eats are kind of crap. Like I
never
really
use them.
I really don't like them. I find them their delivery people to always mess something up. And I've had like quite a few refuse to go anywhere near my flat and just kind of stand on the road. So I'd have to go and grab my food from them, and then they would give me a strop about, I couldn't find your flat, and I'm like, it's literally right in front of you, and I'd be like, oh, and then they would just potter off. So yeah, I kind of find them generally shit. But anyway, joining us tonight, first of all, Poe the person, how are you?
Hey, feeling a bit lonely. No one else is on camera. It's I've got to be all the
too warm for that.
Yeah, it's like I mean, London is always really hot anyway. I'm not used to Wales being this hot. Like for Trans Stupid, I've got a new camera, which is a DSLR, which is actually great. But the problem with that is that it picks up even like when I'm sweating, which it was just kind of ridiculous because it was so ridiculously hot on Tuesday. Like you could actually see beads of sweat on me, and so I was like, right, I have to shrink this image because I'm not sitting for like 20 minutes of you just watching sweat steaming down from me, which is just absolutely disgusting.
It's rather warm.
I uploaded 720p for that reason. Or not that exact reason. It's just more flattering to be in low resolution.
It is. It really is. Like, as much as I love this camera, like, there is something to be said about potato quality. Like, it does kind of, it hides your flaws.
Yeah.
It hides your flaws a little bit better. Yes. So yeah, so that is why I am not on camera, and I'm assuming that's why Scrump isn't on camera as well. Like when it gets cooler, you will see me back on camera. Also, when I get my eyebrows done, because it's been about 5 months almost at this point. And I'm angry about it. Also joining us tonight is Mars. How are you, love?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
It's actually been a long time since we last streamed with each other.
It actually has. You were on my channel last, I think.
Yeah, that was with...
May? It was like months ago.
Yeah, that was me, you, and Blair, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I haven't been on your channel in a while.
Oh, no, now we've fixed it.
That's also because every time you invite me, I'm recording, so...
That is true, and I do appreciate you having to kind of juggle things around so you can come on tonight's Steel-tastic stream. Totally. But with that, we have some special guests tonight, very special guests who are coming over, and that, of course, is the Seals of News.
Aha, they have arrived. They always look suspiciously in the same configuration. They rehearsed that.
They have their pose. Like, they come over with their news, and basically they're like, right, we need to people expect us to be in certain positions. And so they know if they do it, they get their fish. So we have a different kind of seal this week, though. So we have 3 news seals. So we have the Kamala seal, the Ben and Jerry seal, and the COVID seal. There's also a mystery seal. So we might need to find out what that mystery seal has come bearing. But before we do so, Poe, would you like to pick a seal to start us off?
Well, to be honest, I can't help noticing that one of them just says seal. Do we get to talk about seals if I pick that one?
Well, that is the seal of the week seal, who traditionally comes at the end whilst we talk about who gets the seal of approval.
Okay, all right.
That's his time to shine.
I have a question about the Kamala seal.
Okay.
And this story is, of course, Kamala Harris is going to be, is Joe Biden's running mate. Is that the expression?
Yes, the term is running mate.
Yeah, and
in theory, she's the running mate.
It's more like shuffling mate when it comes to Biden, or sitting.
Well, my question is, this morning I heard the news. It's my alarm clock as the news comes on, and then that's how I wake up in the morning. And they said that Kamala Harris was black, which was news to me. I honestly didn't know she was. Is that right?
I think she's half Indian, half Jamaican, I believe. Her father's from Jamaica, and I think her mother's from India. Have I got that right?
Yeah. Yes, it is. She's one half Indian and one half Caribbean, I think.
Yes. Her father comes from Jamaica. That's the one. That's the one which I knew for certain, anyway.
Okay. Well, she's quite pale. That's all I've got to say. I don't know if that makes me racist, but I really, honestly didn't. I've seen pictures of her and I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, she could probably identify as black, and it's okay.
So this is that Harris is now officially Biden's running mate, especially after it was pretty much leaked the other week.
Yeah.
Like, I know kind of that was probably, it felt more like a placeholder thing, but looking back now, it kind of feels like it was almost planned. Intentional. Yeah, it feels like it was intentional. So personally, like when it comes to Kamala, I think, like, I put this on Twitter last night, and it's just kind of something important to remember with her. She isn't running to be vice president. She is effectively running for president in all but name, because there is not a chance that Biden, if he wins, is going to last his entire term. I mean, hell, this is someone who is running to be the leader of the free world, who's already talked openly on several occasions about how whoever is his vice president will very likely need to take over at some point.
Yeah.
So it's never really screamed that he is confident about his position, but it's almost like he's kind of been put up there as like a very basic, safe face for a lot of people. And then Kamala is actually, no, she is who the Democrats want.
Yeah, and don't forget that Biden had said that AOC is going to be, or he wants her to be on the policy panel. So basically, I mean, how much more radical can you get with those two? Just saying.
I find it a very interesting kind of mix that the Democrats are going for now, like especially when you're considering the basically the anti-police movement has got really big. Yeah. So in the Democrat Party, the amount of people who are pushing, abolish the police, and then Kamala is put in as VP. I'm really interested in seeing the kind of mental gymnastics that people go over when they're trying to decide, like, how to justify voting for Democrat, because these people, like the people who are out protesting of all cops are bastards, that kind of thing, they're all going to be voting Democrat. Every single one of them. They're not gonna dare have the balls to vote for anyone else, right? So they're gonna have to swallow it. But it's going to be fascinating to see how they're able to trick themselves into thinking, yes, this is the right thing to do. Yeah.
They're going to probably justify it by saying, we really hate Trump and he can't win again. I mean, that's all they really typically do anyways lately.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like the whole there's even that there's that group which is just called like Settle for Biden. I kind of don't even think it's a parody. Like, I actually think it is a legitimate movement.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh, we know he's not the best, but he ain't Trump.
Right.
Scrump, what are your thoughts on Kamala Harris?
There's a theory going around, and I'm not sure how much credence to give this, that they're putting in Biden and Kamala essentially to get them out of the way Because Kamala Harris is very unpopular within her own party. She's very unpopular in her own state. And Biden, it's his turn kind of thing. He's the obvious candidate after Hillary, and he's put in his years. He's done enough for the party, and he's seen as the default candidate. And no one could unseat him. There was no one that people got excited about. I think they were hoping to push like a Buttigieg or someone like that.
Yeah.
They got very, very paranoid about the prospect of a Bernie candidacy, because that would essentially destroy the corporate Democrats within their party. The party would basically be taken over by its left wing. They also knew that was possibly unpalatable for most of the US. So they really haven't had much choice. And Harris, they've been forced with the whole ID politics thing to, it has to be like a black woman. He said it has to be a woman, and now it has to be a black woman. So that really cut down the pool of candidates. And possibly Kamala Harris is the only one who said yes. A lot of people might have been quite shrewd and realized this is, on balance, a losing election and not good for their political career.
So you think that basically, in a way, that they're being put out to pasture?
I think they're being set up. Because Kamala Harris, I don't think is going any further in her career within the Democratic Party. I don't think she has the profile or the allies to go any further. So they'll put this out, and every time she wants to do anything, they'll say, well, you failed against Trump as a VP candidate. And it's also very muddled messaging. Biden's putting out saying he's going to be a transitional candidate, saying he's not going to run for a second term, but that essentially makes Kamala Harris the default president. So they'll have to defend both Biden and Harris as presidential, which is not traditionally. It's traditionally why you don't have a second heavy hitter on the ticket. That's why Trump chose Pence, and that's why what Hillary Clinton chose. What was it? I had it written down earlier. I can't find it. Well,
I've completely forgotten Hillary's running mate.
Yes, he was completely anonymous. I'm gonna have a Google Hillary VP. 2016. It was. There it is, Tim Kaine. That's it. I knew I'd seen that.
Okay, yeah. I don't even remember that.
Liz, I've just noticed Liz is here. Hi, Liz.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
No, it's all right. We're just talking about effectively the new the actual person running for president rather than Biden.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I feel like they're going to lose a lot of the black vote hiring her, or picking her.
Well, yeah, I mean, isn't she wasn't she responsible for effectively getting more? The main kind of problem that people have, from what I understand, is that she was responsible for incarcerating people without evidence, or with very flimsy evidence, and a lot of those were likely black. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
And
there was so much that she did.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Incarcerating single parents, incarcerating single moms if their kids skip school. That's pretty bad.
She had put Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking they attacked Trump for separating kids from their parents at the border, and yet this lady would literally take single moms, and throw them in jail. What did she do with the kids? I haven't heard that, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mars, continue.
No. I was just going off of that. Like everything that she stood for, it really does counter this whole defund the police, which is the irony. It doesn't make any sense. She had put so many people away for marijuana, but yet would give plea deals for other criminals that had done way worse. And then also I think it was 18 or police killed 18 people during the 6 years that she was an attorney. So, I mean, just everything she has done doesn't add up to this new movement of, all cops are bastards. So it's ridiculous,
So, according to this Huffington Post article from last year, one of the people that it mentions is a 13-year-old punched a classmate and stole 46 cents. He was undocumented immigrant from Australia and was then handed over to ICE, and they threatened to deport him and his family. And so,
extremely aggressive there, extremely. Stunning and extremely brave.
And so, yeah, this is.
If they're not trying to. Sorry. I mean, I think that they've been eyeing her for a while, but if I didn't already know that they had picked her, because I think most people figured that they had picked her, I would wonder if they were picking her to combat Trump's narrative of being the law and order candidate, because that is the most popular with the majority of Americans. And yes, you could call her law and order, but she's really not. She's just so corrupt. She is pro-police, but she's just more like pro-authoritarian abuse of power police.
Mm-hmm. So did anyone see like some of the flip-flopping that's pretty gone on with
the Sean King one was the most famous one, I think.
Yeah, let me put on the Sean King one because it's pretty impressive. I'll be frank and tell you, 2 Democrats I'm 99% sure I won't be supporting, primarily because of their dismal history on criminal justice reform over the course of their entire careers. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They both helped build and advance mass incarceration. So, not even 2 years later, I'm incredibly proud to see a brilliant black woman in HBCU grad chosen as vice presidential nominee. I've done political work my whole life. It's rarely things dreams are made of. Kamala Harris is the most progressive VP nominee in American history.
What a joke.
Dismal history on criminal justice reform. Most progressive VP in American history. And Sean King is actually excited for her to be turning up.
It's only these people who are saying they're excited, though. That's the thing. There's not a lot of groundswell. It's all the like sponsored content TM people who shell for the DNC and a lot of the media people. There's no one's excited on a ground level about this. The activists, in fact, are livid. She called herself, what was it, Pop in Chief of California, and they are taking that and running with it.
Pop in Chief.
I find it pretty much impossible to believe that anybody could be excited about Joe Biden except for like Joe Biden's direct family. It seems I don't understand anyone who could be enthusiastic about that man other than just a better alternative to Trump.
No, a lot of people though look at Joe Biden and they think Obama because they know he was the vice president under Obama, and they have just chosen to ignore all of his gaffes. They're not listening to anything he's saying now. All they do is they look at him and they think Obama, and they want that back.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because a lot of people really believe that Obama was just this amazing president, and he was so awesome. And I have family members who will still post the meme saying, with a picture of Obama saying, "Don't you miss 8 years of no scandals?"
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's because they waited for Obama to leave office before the scandal came out.
No, there were so many scandals under him. You know about Fast and Furious? Benghazi? All of that was under Obama.
Oh, do they not mean like direct ones that literally is about Obama doing stuff?
Obama did Fast and Furious. Do you know about that?
I actually don't.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is Fast?
Fast and Furious was where, Obama was very, very anti-gun. And it came out, there was an American border agent was shot and killed by a Mexican cartel. And when they traced the guns back, the guns had come from America. They kept tracing. And what they found was that the Obama administration had ordered certain sellers of guns to sell these guns to the Mexican cartels. They ordered them to sell them to them so that the guns could be traced back to America. This was Obama intentionally providing guns to Mexican cartels in order to kill Americans so that he could then say, we need to ban guns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was a huge scandal.
Anywhere was a shithole country. That's what we're saying. Yeah,
what I'm saying is there were multiple scandals. I mean, Benghazi. I'm sure you've heard about that. I don't know if you know the details that went into it, but that was another huge scandal under Obama. There were a lot of scandals under him, and these people on the left, it's like they've blocked it out. I don't know. Maybe they just don't even know about him.
They called it gun walking, didn't they? Letting the gun. The thing is, they tried to defend it as an investigation tactic. But it makes no sense. You're literally just giving weapons to the cartels.
Yeah.
Well, and it's against the law. people who sell guns in America have to do background checks, have to know who they're selling it to, and have to make sure that the person buying it is legally allowed to own a firearm. And this is why it was such a big deal. The Obama administration ordered them to sell these guns to people who legally cannot buy guns in the U.S.
But what I'm saying is that it's as damning as that is, it's not as shareable, it's not as attention grabbing as Trump saying something that you can literally just make a clip out of and then share that clip of, or just like a quote,
But if Trump did that, if Trump did what Liz is saying, like, do you think that there would be the same kind of media reaction that there was under Obama? I mean, I'm saying this, granted, I'm saying this as a British woman, but this is something which I'd never heard of until now. Like, I literally had no idea.
It would have been a scandal if they had a media that wasn't asleep on its. The media went to sleep for 8 years. That's what everyone always says. They just. The reason there was quote unquote no Obama scandals is that the US media was asleep at the wheel throughout his entire tenure.
Well, they weren't asleep at the wheel. They were actively playing defense for him.
Yeah, I was going to say
running defense for him.
Right.
Anytime anybody said anything anti-Obama, the media would call them out as racist. Oh, you just hate him because he's a black man. Poe, you mentioned a clip that you could share. There was a clip of his, oh dear, I can't think of his position, but the chief, not Chief Justice. Oh my goodness, that all the Americans are probably going to be able to say the chief lawyer, the head of the defense department, whatever. No, I can't think of what his position is. I can see his face. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names. Anyway, but basically the head person in charge of justice. He was a black man appointed by Obama, and he said that they would not pursue any case against a black man. If a black person was, because it's something where you have to appeal to one of the higher levels, not the Supreme Court. Or he said that his Justice Department would not go after any black person. So there's a clip that was shared around, and the media just ignored it. Or in that case, they ignored it. They didn't defend it. But usually they would just play defense. There were so many scandals under Obama.
I don't know what else to say except for the left controls all the media too. So I mean, it's no surprise that all these scandals get kind of ignored when it's the left, but when it's the right, they're not. And I hate saying that because it sounds like I'm a conspiracy theorist on the right, but it just is what it is.
Well, it is what it is because most. Sorry, I don't want to dominate the conversation here.
No, it's perfectly fine. Scrump, were you about to say something?
I was just going to say that the media has been very open about it recently, and the fact that they've kicked out anyone who's not an activist. They've kicked out all the center-left people now. They've worked their way from the hard right wing to the moderately right wing to the center, and now the center-left people have gone. So it's only the activist journalists left at places like the New York Times, Washington Post. There was two separate incidents where different editorials were basically caused a newsroom blow up, and the far left journalists won in those cases. So what's happened is that we have ended up with a media who is just they are now openly far left. I don't think you could call anyone a conspiracy theorist for saying that now, since they basically are saying it themselves.
Yeah, fair. I'm just paranoid of sounding like that.
But something which I found today, well, I think it was posted yesterday, is kind of interesting, as someone's compiled basically a thread on the various things that are likely, basically these are the things that are likely going to be ignored by the kind of the radical left, as they're doing everything they can to justify voting for Harris. And a lot of these are the kind of things that will piss off, piss off the vast majority of people, except for a few kind of neocon things. For example, she supported Trump escalating a war in Syria, voted to increase military budget twice. They're very kind of neocon moves, but that's generally what you would expect from the Democrats anyway. Because there's always this under the Democrats.
What's happening here with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden is that the Democrats, I guess you could say, their only real play here is to say that they are being moderate. They have not put up a far left candidate. They have not put up a openly, super Black Lives Matter candidate. They are not really pandering to the activist base, but on a local level they are. And but a lot of what the party is saying they are. So they have the top figures for a presidential election completely off message with the rest of their party, and especially their local parties.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying, "Oh, they're saying Kamala Harris has both abolished the police and a cop. How can they say that?" It's like, well, it's the Democrats who abolish police, and it's Kamala Harris who has an extremely bad record with corruption and over sentencing on criminal matters. They've managed to somehow get the worst of both worlds. Who is this going to appeal to? Because the DNC as a whole puts off any kind of center or right of center voter with what they've currently been doing with their tacit support of the riots. But Kamala Harris and Joe Biden really put off the activist base that can be quite useful. They put off anyone who's not center left in the party. They put off the far left of the party. So they end up with this narrow coalition of, I guess, center left, neoliberal / neocon people who are very, very into the corporate Democrats, who are the people who voted for Hillary in 2016 anyway, and they still lost. So I don't see a path to victory here with this ticket, unless there's some kind of dramatic scandal in the Trump administration in the meantime. But even if there is a genuine dramatic scandal, people won't notice because they've been turned up to 11 for so long, blowing up every little thing that's happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a similar way to how the left over here just keeps on overshooting the mark with everything when it comes to Boris's handling of coronavirus. Like when they will say, for example, Boris has murdered like thousands of elderly people. All these people are dying as a direct result of Boris Johnson. Like it's such an extreme and absurd position that eventually when the government does something wrong, which really they have been doing all along anyway, your average person isn't going to take as much notice because it all becomes white noise. Like, of course you're going to say that there's problems. You're on the left. That's what you do. They constantly overshoot their mark. And I think especially with Trump, that's what they've done. And so the only thing that they really have going for them right now with your average American is simply, we're not Trump after 4 years of orange man bad.
Right.
Like, it's like as much as they might hate Trump and say he's been such a burden on America and the whole way the system's been run, he's still, everything is still about him.
Let me try and gauge something here. So, sorry, Mars, what do you know about coming into this? What do you know about Kamala Harris? I know she's kind of an existing public figure. She's not like a nobody like Tim King was. But what did you know? What is your impression of Kamala Harris coming into this, if you had one?
So I'm definitely not an expert, but I've always gotten the idea that she is pretty radical. Like I see her and AOC kind of similar in that sense. Like they're both for the Green Deal, for example, which to me that's a pretty crazy idea. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I did see all the Green New Deal stuff. Well, they retracted that in the end. I don't believe in that. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with her or AOC being in any position of power because their ideas are just way too much for me. I mean, even something as like abortion, for example, Kamala Harris, she doesn't want any sort of limitations on it, and it's too extreme. I also get I've always gotten the feeling that she's very she doesn't really care about this country. She's like anti-American. I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question. Oh no, it definitely does. I'm someone who follows European American world politics in general quite closely. If you look at Kamala Harris's record, she is someone who loudly virtue signals about principles, but then seems to implement the very center corporate Democrat line when it comes to it.
Right.
Again, she's the worst of both worlds, and I think she's only got where she is by being an opportunist.
She's
I don't know, Poe, as a fellow Brit, had you heard anything about Kamala Harris during the primaries, or is she kind of an unknown figure to you? Oh, you are muted there, Poe.
Yeah.
Oh,
thank you. I've definitely heard of Kamala Harris, but I don't think I ever heard about her on the news. It was only through Twitter and things, and I think mostly when it was. Did she get into some kind of argument with Trump like last year? I thought there was something to do with her and Trump was when she sort of came onto our radar.
It was Brett Kavanaugh. She was extremely hard during the Kavanaugh hearings and came off quite badly.
Well, she even has at least kind of been consistent with that by saying that she believes Biden's accusers.
Yes, but that again, longer term in the campaign, that's going to be extremely awkward.
What the hell? I mean, how could she say that and be?
She also she
said that a while ago.
Okay,
she didn't say that recently.
Yeah, she did do. No, it wasn't that long ago. It was kind of very late 2019. It's less than a year ago. She said that.
Are you talking about when she called him a motherfucker?
No. When she said that she believes his accusers.
Okay.
She also implied he was a racist. She called him a segregationalist.
Yeah, she called him a racist on stage at one of the Democrats.
Yes. But she called Biden that.
Yeah, she called Biden.
Yeah,
so she is now the vice presidential candidate to a man she believes is a racist rapist. By her own admission. I don't know how well that's going to play, and people remember that. People aren't stupid.
Most people don't, though. I mean, think about it. How many people there who are voting for Biden remember that he said that Obama was the first educated black man he'd ever met?
Oh, God.
And then I mean, isn't that the pundits and the people who are going to put the message forward remember that? It's going to end up being blasted into people's homes. There is a lot of advertising. I think the Trump administration is once again going to outspend. They have been doing so quite heavily in local races, the Republican Party as well. That's something I've been keeping an eye on. If you look at the down ticket races, it's something I keep telling them to keep an eye on with this whole election. If you look at the down ticket congressional and even the Senate races, and city council or state Senate, state Congress, kind of those level of elections, that the Democrats are being destroyed dollar for dollar by the Republicans. That does have an impact, especially when people don't really know who their candidates are unless they come on the TV or they see them in adverts. It's going to be difficult for a lot of their candidates to get a foothold on a local level. Even if somehow Biden manages to pull out a win nationally, he may end up as an early, a dead on arrival lame duck president, because conceivably, numbers-wise, Biden could win the presidency but lose the Senate and even the House, with how volatile things are.
And so it'll be amazing. Sorry.
I was going to go off on a tangent, so you better finish your point first.
No, that's fine. So it'll be interesting where Biden were to instantly come in as a lame duck president, considering that phase doesn't often happen until the second half of their last term.
Yeah. The problem is, though, that the problem is that even that way he would have untold power.
He can issue executive orders, but I'm just saying that the situation for the Democrats is grimmer than people realize, and a lot of that is the complete collapse locally.
Especially
it doesn't matter, though. I mean, precedent has been set. If Biden gets the presidency, he could go to war. He could literally do.
I'm not saying it'd be a good thing, but I'm saying that even if they get over that hurdle, they're still not out of the woods yet. In terms of Kamala herself, though, I sent it to you on Discord, Rose. Was the famous encounter between her and Tulsi Gabbard?
Yes.
It was basically said to have ended Kamala Harris's primary run, even though she didn't really get much steam there, to be honest. In which she goes over the fact that Kamala Harris refused to commute the sentence of someone on death row, and even hid exonerating evidence, during a hearing about someone who was on death row. And this was seen, especially within the Democrat, the people who watch the Democrat primaries closely, as the moment Kamala Harris's campaign for the candidacy died. It died on stage, and Tulsi Gabbard murdered it.
Yeah, I very specifically remember this. If I could figure out how to get sounds to play through StreamYards, then I would totally be playing that clip. Although I have just noticed it's CNN, so they might want to content strike it. As I know they get very trigger happy about that. But yeah, a lot of people are kind of forgetting, and they're trying to hype up, oh my God, Kamala versus Mike Pence on stage. Kamala wasn't really the best in the Democrat primaries. I mean, she kind of dropped out. She dropped. It didn't take long for her to drop out. I think Elizabeth Warren lasted longer than Kamala Harris.
Like I said, I think they have a messaging issue too. The problem that they have is that they have to shill both Kamala and Biden as being presidential, and that's not what they're essentially fighting a war on two fronts, which is not which, as anyone will tell you, is not a good idea.
No, but it's what they have to do. I mean, anyone looking at Biden knows that he's not going to be able to do a competent full term. He says so himself. So, yeah, Kamala is going to have a lot more attention put on her when normally, like, the VPs are normally forgotten about. Like, how many of them are truly memorable, unless they're generally characters themselves. I mean, hell, I can't. The name's kind of slipped from my head just now.
Everyone remembers Sarah Palin.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, her name just slipped my head, but she was a memorable VP choice
for the wrong reason, though. She was very much emblematic of the complacency and the inward focus that the Republican Party at that moment had got. She was, the infamous "energize the base" phrase. She thought that that's what the American public wanted, and it showed how completely stuck in the Reagan era the Republicans were at that point.
Yeah,
someone, Free Toaster in the chat was saying that Rose, you should play the video and you should speak. You should speak over Tulsi as she's speaking, and then we'll be able to hear what she's saying.
Oh no, we could do a redubbing. At some point, that might be fun.
Do you want me to give that a try?
Oh no, that's really hard. Hearing someone speak, trying to keep up with them, and then saying what they're saying is really difficult.
Yeah, that would
don't even try it. I've tried to do it before myself. Super sticker. Hey,
I just I'll read out the super chat in a bit, but just so this one just says super sticker. Like I don't. Let me see whether does it actually. Oh, it does. There is a sticker. It says thanks for being you.
Yeah, I was going to say there's actually a sticker there.
But if you click on it and Streamlabs, it does a super sticker.
Anyway, does anyone have any other points or tangents to make about Kamala Harris then?
I was just going to say, for anybody who hasn't seen Game of Thrones, this is going to make sense. But people always say that that nobody forgives anymore, and that your crimes will always be remembered for years. But I think if somebody, and I'm not saying politicians ever do this, but I was just thinking that if you become a person that people actually like, I think there actually is a lot of capacity for forgiveness, because I remember watching Game of Thrones in like season 7. Was it? How many seasons are there? In like season 5 of Game of Thrones, where Jaime Lannister and Brienne of Tarth are traveling together, and Jaime Lannister suddenly turns from being this absolute arsehole villain character, and then you're completely on his side when he's had his hand cut off, and he's sitting in the bath with Brienne crying about how everybody calls him Kingslayer. And I literally forgot that the first episode was him pushing a child out of a window. And I think, and I wasn't the only one. I think a lot of people were struggling to remember what this guy had done that was so bad that we hated him 5 years ago when we all watched season 1.
That guy.
So, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to add on Kamala?
I'm just gonna not really. I mean, I don't know. To me, does not need to be in a position of power. I mean, I hate to sound like I'm freaking out. I kind of am. I don't think they're gonna win. It would be insane if Biden wins, because to me, everybody, whether you're on the right or left, agrees that Biden, he's racist and he's a fucking pig. He's a pedo or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kamala Harris, I don't know. I never get the feeling that I get the feeling that she's going to pander, even though she has the history she has. And I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense. I just can't stand her and AOC. If there's anybody on the left that I really can't stand, it's them. And I just cannot bear the thought of her.
The squad.
Yeah. What's it called?
The squad.
Yeah. The squad. Cannot stand. Yeah. The only one missing is that one from Minneapolis, I believe. I forget her name, but yeah.
Imran Omar. She won her primary again today. I think by a narrow margin.
And I'm surprised because I'm surprised to see that, considering it doesn't seem like everybody's happy with what's going on in Minneapolis. But
but doesn't her area have quite a high Somali base?
Yeah, basically she lives in a majority Somali district, so represents. a majority
Gotcha.
Somali district.
Oh, and also somebody had super chatted earlier that they did not pull back from the Green Deal. So just putting that out there.
I thought they retracted it, redrafted it, and then put it back out.
It's back out.
I was about to read that. I was about to do super chats.
Sorry, I kind of jumped in here. My bad.
Let me do super chats though. So Mr. Floppy Knickers with the $5, they have not retracted the Green New Deal. AOC mentioned she has over 100 House members signed up to support it. A D is working on more.
Okay.
They did redraft it. They
And
took
it's
out
working on
the
more, right?
because originally they were saying that they want to get rid of all air travel and get rid of cows, and they did redraft it to take that bit out. But it is still there. It is still they are still trying to get it passed.
Mm.
I was gonna say
So
the comment. Sorry, there's a comment somebody made, Christina, in the chat here. She said Omar won the primary 58 to 40, not exactly narrow. I voted against her. It's not a majority Somali.
All right. Well, she lives in a heavily Somali district then. No, I said it was by a narrower margin.
Okay.
As in, she lost percentage from last election.
So Family Lee with 1999 at the sticker. Thanks for being you. And it's a pear looking at a mirror, and the pear is doing heart eyes. No, thank you. That's really cute and really generous. George with the £5. How common is it to pick a failed primary candidate as VP? It's usually a safe nobody who will serve in relative obscurity. Kamala Harris has been picked to lead. Yeah, it's very rare that it's actually a failed candidate.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually seen as you entering the primary race as you excluding yourself from the VP nomination because you have to attack your opponent, like Tulsi Gabbard has done, calling him a racist. So, bit of a tongue twister there. Don't say it 5 times too fast. Racist, rapist.
Sam Callahan with £5. I wish it was the idiot Biden friend Kamala Harris that died instead of the wrestling gym Kamala Harris, who died earlier this week. Oh God, yeah, I remember that. Like that, yeah, I'd never heard of that wrestler before, but it kind of started trending that he had died. It's just like Kamala Harris has died. Did anyone else see that?
I did see that. Yes, they were a wrestler.
Yeah, good guy. And Jedwin Cringewalker with the $10. Don't forget about the dozens of slaves Kamala's great-grandpop owned. Fascinating how the councillors tearing statues down and defunding the police now have to vote for a cop from a slave-owning family. Like, I have seen some people do the mental gymnastics of, like, well, it's okay for her ancestors to have owned slaves because they were black and white people owned slaves first.
Yeah, it's not going to play well. That's going to get out there with the super woke activist people. It's just not, like I said, they are not going to hold their nose and vote for them this time. They've been worked into a fever pitch. It's going to be what happened with Bernie, but even bigger. They've really put off anyone to the left of the corporate Democrats. They're not going to be energized to vote for them.
I don't know, because in a normal year. In a normal year, I would completely agree with you. But remember, this whole election is about Trump. It isn't about whatever the Democrats' image for America is. It's not even about COVID. It's literally just about Trump. Nothing else matters to a lot of these people. So that's why at the moment I'm kind of leaning on the idea that the vast majority, you might get a few principled individuals, a few people that might maybe vote for a third candidate or spoil their ballot, but I do think that the vast majority of these people will still vote and big them up regardless, simply because not Trump.
Yeah, I agree.
So with that, thank you to everyone who sent in super chats so far. It is really helping me out at this time because I'm taking a sabbatical from work, so my income has been kind of limited, so that was really appreciated. Also, just to plug again, there is you can now be a member of the Rose of Dawn channel. There's a join there should be a join button somewhere, which is a it gives you a little seal of approval next to your name on streams, and you also get access to a couple of special emotes. Someone's just asked, Rose, just out of curiosity, did you set up the straw poll for the voting? Fuck.
You should probably do that.
I keep on forgetting. Oh, God damn it.
Right, who hasn't picked a seal of news then? Who picked Kamala?
I believe that was Poe.
Okay. So Mars, would you like to pick a seal of news then?
Yep. So there's COVID, Ben and Jerry's, or the mystery seal.
Mars just said he's grabbing a beer. I don't know if he still is.
Sorry.
I'm back. Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
Glad to have you back.
No, thank you though. Thanks for looking out. Appreciate it. I'm always really excited about what's behind that mystery seal, but
Yes.
I can't recall why Ben and Jerry's would be up here. So I'm kind of curious. But no, fuck it.
Which one are you going for?
I'll just. All right, let's see the Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's seal. So do you know why Ben and Jerry's are in the news?
I don't actually. That's why I was curious why they made it up.
Okay. So Ben and Jerry's.
I only just found out about this like literally just before coming on air. I've been catching up with the story.
Really?
Yeah, I know it happened like
Quite spicy news.
Yeah, it happened yesterday, but I only saw it like 10 minutes before we came on air.
It happened yesterday.
I saw ice creams trending on Twitter earlier, and I was curious about that. And now I kind of hate this news story because it makes you really want to eat ice cream every time I see Ben and Jerry's written down. Let's get through it quick.
Ben and Jerry's is Ben and Jerry's is pretty shit. Let me just bring up I had the Ben and Jerry's Twitter thread ready, but it seems to have disappeared.
I DM'd it to you.
You have.
I think maybe Ben and Jerry's as an ice cream brand is overrated, but ice cream is ice cream. I'm not going to say.
I don't like it's overrated and overpriced. I don't like it, but
I much prefer getting proper British ice cream, to be honest. Like like your Cornish ice cream, your Welsh ice cream.
Yes.
So this is why Mars. This is why Ben and Jerry's is on the seals of news. Hey, Priti Patel. She is the Home Secretary of the UK. Hey, Priti Patel. We think the real crisis is a lack of humanity for people fleeing war, climate change, and torture. We pulled together a thread for you. People wouldn't make dangerous journeys if they had any other choice. The UK hasn't resettled any refugees since March, but wars and violence continue.
I wonder why.
What we need is more safe and legal routes. People cannot be illegal, and it is enshrined in the 1951 Refugee Convention that crossing a border illegally should not impact your asylum claim. Stronger borders aren't the answer and only puts more lives at risk. Check out this video for more information. We know experts at organizations like Refugee Action want to talk solutions with ministers, so why not have these conversations? Let's remember, we're all human. Have the same rights to life regardless of the country we happen to be born in. And once more for the back, people cannot be illegal. So these are people, just to kind of clarify what this is. This is Ben and Jerry's. This is Ben and Jerry's UK account, who are criticising Priti Patel, despite the fact that the Conservatives have done a irresponsibly weak effort when it comes to the current migrant crisis, basically saying like these people fleeing from the war-torn lands of France.
Yes, it is.
Because that's what they always leave out. These people are not coming over on little dinghies from Syria. They're coming over directly from France. They're coming over from Calais, to be specific. They've gone through a lot of different countries where they could claim asylum in order to be in France in the first place. And then they still cross over from France to the UK. That part of that journey is not needed. If they are fleeing war, there are other places that they have stopped in where they would be safe.
It's in the Refugee Convention. Someone falsely said in that thread that it's an EU requirement. It's not. It's anyone who signs up to the Refugee Convention, which the EU has and the UK has, both as part of the EU and separately.
Yes.
What's part of the convention is the fact that refugees are only valid if they are claiming asylum in the nearest safe country. That is the only place refugees can seek refuge. It has to be a safe country. They have to qualify that it's safe, but they have to seek refuge in the nearest safe country. They can't continuously cross borders like we saw with the German refugee crisis and claim asylum in other countries. That's not legal.
Yes, and that's what I meant when I said that they've passed through several other countries. Like, this isn't just passing over, between, let's say, Iraq and Syria. Because nobody out there could reasonably say that Syria is a safe country. It's understandable why people would be fleeing the civil war or ISIS, but you're going through, in order to make this journey all the way over to the UK, there's so many designated safe countries out there, because nobody in their right mind would consider even somewhere like Greece.
Well, the thing is that people can apply for asylum. People can apply for asylum in the UK whilst in the other safe country, but it does, like the refugee agreements do explicitly say that crossing unilaterally without applying for asylum and having an accepted application is not. You don't have to accept refugees. They don't have to accept anybody, to be honest. They have to accept applications, but they don't have to accept refugees. There is no requirement, no legal requirement for them to accept refugees. And like I said, apart from economic migration, there is no reason for them to be, are they leaving the war-torn fields of France? No, it's because the UK has a more generous and more easily accessible benefit system than most of Europe does.
Mm.
With the exception of maybe Sweden and parts of Germany, we are the #1 destination because we are seen as having a generous system.
Couldn't it also though be? Sorry. Couldn't it also, though, be that England speaks English, and most of the rest of the world, if you learn a language other than the language of your home nation, it's probably going to be English. So if you're leaving your home nation, it seems like it would just be easiest to go to an English-speaking nation.
Well, one of the biggest problems we have is that most of these people don't speak any English at all.
Yeah. In fact,
never mind.
in fact, the levels of English amongst asylum seekers is not particularly high. Again, these are people who are kind of effectively coming straight over. A lot of them are unskilled. Like, you'll often hear a rhetoric from the left when they talk about immigration and people coming over to work. They'll often mention about our doctors, our nurses, the people who work in hospitals. That's a big one that they go to. But
no, the thing is, those people come in legally.
Yeah, these people come through the legal route. You're not going to have doctors going through and risking their lives on a dinghy when the NHS regularly recruits foreign doctors. These people are still in demand. They're going to be able to easily go through a legal route, and they always do.
The problem is, there was that documentary. I don't know if you saw it. There's a documentary I saw about Sweden. I think The Guardian actually did, in which there were all these people. They all claim to be doctors or professors. And they all look like goat farmers. I'm sorry, they don't conduct themselves like professors or doctors. They don't talk like professors or doctors. They don't have the air of a employed professional about them. I know they might have been through a long migrant route, but it turned out one of these people was lying. They were actually Turkish. They weren't actually Syrian at all. They were like a Turkish day laborer. It's a big problem, and the issue we have is the magnet here. We shouldn't be bussing people in. We should be trying to prevent them from taking the risk of crossing. It also is driving people trafficking. A lot of this is done by people traffickers who extort these people and inflate the claims of what they can get in the UK. If you remove the incentive, you remove the danger. As we saw with Germany, the worst thing you can do is open the floodgates, because you end up with a crisis that they are still dealing with the political fallout from.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned people traffickers, because if you're in London, as an example, whilst these aren't Syrian refugees, a lot of you'll see them kind of from more like Eastern Europe, kind of Bulgaria. A lot of these people, or Romania, a lot of these will be the beggars that you come across on the streets of London. they won't speak a word of English, but these people will have been bussed in by people traffickers. They'll be made to beg on the streets, and then in the evenings they're collected, and then they live in abhorrent conditions, way worse than anything which they left. Like, this is people trafficking is a massive, massive problem. And when you simply allow the floodgates of like the borders to open, you're effectively legalizing people trafficking, because that's how a lot of these people are going to get over. Like, if you're not going to do anything with them, what is the incentive for people traffickers to not be there?
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Because otherwise, how are they otherwise going to get over? If these people are again, I'm not ignoring the fact that a lot of these people are in desperate situation, because like, you know, a lot of them certainly are in desperate situations. These are they're coming over and basically they're crossing the channel in a dinghy. Like I like, that's not safe.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people are clearly in very vulnerable positions, and we know full well, like Africa, Northern Africa, there's a big problem with people traffickers getting people over to Italy. We know that there's a problem between, like, you know, with people traffickers getting others over to Greece, and especially in Eastern Europe. And what this whole rhetoric of, like, you know, no borders, it all sounds, you know, they all say this to kind of sound lovely, but another problem with the left is they just talk too much in ideals and not enough in relative fact. And the fact is that a lot of people are being abused by this. The UK isn't going to be easy or accessible for a lot of people who are effectively coming over to, like, a lot of them will be to claim asylum. When you claim asylum, you cannot work, so they are going to be on benefits. That's the simple truth of it. Okay. And the way in which they're coming over to do that is dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous. And that conversation even if you're talking about it purely from a humanitarian point of view. And, like, you know, I'm someone who fully supports the idea of a nation state being able to have borders and decide who has entry and who doesn't. But that's not necessarily what I'm mentioning here. What I'm mentioning is that even if we're taking the left's lovely arguments at face value, if we talk about it on their terms, why are they not addressing the problem of human trafficking? Because that's how a lot of this comes about. Mm-hmm. So, Scrum, what are your thoughts?
I think I've given my thoughts, really. It's right. It's why it's always developed Western nations who have to take these refugees. It's never Arab nations. It's never other Eastern. You know, there's a lot of different countries in the world. Yet the EU and the US seem to be the only countries expected to take the burden of refugees.
I mean, Japan takes next to none. I think they take less than 100 a year.
I mean, how come, you know, Dubai and the UAE and Saudi Arabia, with all their surplus oil money, don't take these refugees? Surely they have a more compatible culture there. Surely they'd be happier in Islamic countries as Muslim people.
Yeah, but if they're a minority Islamic group, they'll likely face heavy persecution under that still.
No, you know, Britain gets called a sort of white supremacist for not accepting you know, these people with different cultures, when actually the reason they're coming to Britain is because they were so much more tolerant than a lot of other places that they could go.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be completely honest. If I was in Syria and I had a choice between going to Saudi Arabia or the UK, I'll be honest, I probably would prefer to go to the UK. But then there's also places like Germany, there's France, there's Italy, there's Greece, and a lot of those are better places to live than Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
That's kind of my angle on that.
This is just like, why did this start? Why did this blow up all of a sudden? Like, why did Ben and Jerry's tweet that out?
Because they want attention, basically. They want a virtue signal.
It was just random.
It's a reply to the Home Secretary, Priti Patel.
No, I thought something kicked it off besides Ben and Jerry's.
So, like, so a lot of this is because of Farage. So during lockdown, Nigel Farage spent a lot of time in Dover, or kind of like around the southern coast, documenting the amount of illegal migrants entering the country. He eventually, like, his coverage of it is now effectively half-assed being addressed by the government because it was too big to ignore. Like, Farage is someone who, like, the left will often kind of gloat at him as like being like a failed politician, but he's probably one of the most successful politicians in the UK right now, despite never being elected as a British MP. I mean, he's certainly been a member of the European Parliament, but the man has substantial influence, and he's very, very good at getting his message across. And he was the one who kind of cast a spotlight on this. And now the government is saying that they're going to be taking action about it, although Patel has said has put out a message saying, oh yeah, there's lots of legal loopholes and things we can and cannot do, which is kind of a way of just saying, there's not much we can do about this really, but make sure to vote Conservative in the next election where we will really take control.
Okay.
You know, that's because the Conservative Party is weak, despite the fact they hold a stonking great majority, as Boris put it. That they're very weak in their morals. They don't actually take the kind of action that they could and should. Like, to the point where, like, the left might try and paint them as a far right group, but they're really not. Like, they're very moderate. Yeah. Very, very moderate. And something like illegal migration, which is, again, Patel has said that, you know, they're revamping the immigration system. They're going to be making it more difficult for people to come in. And they're still just kind of sitting on their hands and just not doing anything.
Okay. Well, I guess the moral of the story is fuck Ben and Jerry's. Like, I just want to eat ice cream. I don't care about their stupid political opinion.
One thing that I did love that's kind of come out of this is let me just try and for God's sake, where is it gone? I got so many different links up. Basically, where is it? So, oh wow, lightning outside.
Yeah, I've had that. I know James Cleverly, the MP, basically just said they were virtue signaling to go away.
Yeah.
A lot of the tweets saying, like, you know, shut up and make ice cream. You know, we don't care about your opinion. Yeah,
exactly how I feel.
Well, one person who went on a big tangent against him is Douglas Murray.
Yeah, I thought you were going
to he's really on one. Like, who are these people at the back, Ben and Jerry's? Might they include what we used to call customers, people who might once have bought your weed killer ice cream? He's referencing weed killer being found in Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Don't you think you should work on not having weed killer in your ice cream before lecturing the UK government on more complicated issues? Ben and Jerry's has also recently caught exploiting migrant workers. Is this why he wants more illegal migrants in the UK to exploit them too?
Technically, a lot of large corporations have put pressure on countries to accept more low-skilled immigrants precisely because they can use them as cheap labor.
Yeah,
I'd say honestly, yes, a resounding yes to that. Amazon and other companies do it too. They love migrant labor. It drives down the price of wages.
Yeah, and bear in mind, Ben & Jerry's is a part of Unilever as well.
Oh, you know, course, yeah.
One of the biggest. You know, they put out this image that there's just two men, Ben and Jerry, and they're making their little ice cream, and they're right on, and they're making these flavors like resist flavor, which is still like probably the cringiest ice cream that's ever been made. You know, they put out this kind of image that's really there for, you know, the kind of the woke millennial going to Chaz, giving out ice cream, but they're a part of a massive corporation. I mean, like, Ben and Jerry's is a worldwide brand. They're not a small time, like, they're not a small business, and then they're tied to Unilever, who have massive problems.
I'm just hoping that they come out with some anti-racist ice cream, and then, you know, I'm in.
Well, that's effectively what Resist was. Let me see if I can find Resist ice cream. It's embarrassing.
It is.
It's the only way that I can really describe it. It's kind of like the anti-Trump ice cream.
Yeah.
All right, just while you're finding it, Rose, I remember when Ben and Jerry's, I don't know if it was when they first started sort of selling in the UK, because they're an American brand, over 10 years ago, they already had a sort of a small germ of this kind of slightly political. But they, at first,
the Tumblr art too.
they were marketing their ice cream as having, like they treat their cows really well. The milk that the ice cream comes from is from, it's from these happy, well-treated cows. So they were always trying to pushing this sort of ethical face. But it's. I just want to make the point that it's a lot more acceptable when the point they're making is about the ice cream, right? About how they make the ice cream, the actual ethical sort of business practices, which whatever you think about animal cruelty or animal treatment, I think that at least makes sense.
It relates to the ice cream, yeah. Does anyone else have anything to say about the Ben and Jerry's before we move on to our next? I know you've not chosen a seal yet, there, Liz. So
just one more thing, since you've got it on the screen. I saw someone tweet out this resist Ben and Jerry's artwork, but with NPC faces. Was that? Oh
yes, I saw that too.
You can imagine it. You didn't see it.
Right. So I believe that a few more super chats have come in. Let me just bring up our good friends, the Seals of News. Where have they toddled off to? Here they are. They're back.
They're back.
They're back. Okay, so 2 more super chats to read out. Jesus Fried Christ with the 279 Canadian. If you vote for Kamala Harris, you ain't black. And Moy Felicita with the 50 DKK. Cheers. Oh, thank you. Just once again, just to remind everyone, you can also be a member of the channel and get your seal logo. But that, Liz, would you like to pick a seal?
Okay, so is there only one left available? Because
there are 2. There's the mystery seal, and then there's COVID.
I'll go with mystery.
Mystery box.
Yeah.
Mystery box.
I was hoping
The box.
I would have been so sad if you had not picked it.
Okay, so just keep in mind that fluffy, innocent little seal when I bring up what his topic is, what he's come to talk to us about. Nuclear bombs. He was.
Thanks, Seal.
So, basically, I wanted to talk about this last week. The stream on Thursday when that went out, when that was supposed to go out, that was actually on the day of the 75th anniversary of the Hiroshima nuclear bomb. So that's 75 years since the world has really been aware of nuclear warfare and everything which it kind of comes along with. And so this is just kind of like a test in a different kind of thing than seal of approval, because we're talking a lot about the news in the last couple of weeks, but I kind of want to get people's ideas on other subjects as well. And this is going to sound really, really weird, but I have periods where, when you go into a wiki hole or that kind of thing, where you start looking at a particular topic loads and you don't quite know why, but you end up kind of really getting into it. Well, that happened to me a while ago on nuclear warfare, and I ended up actually not being able to sleep for several days because I started to get quite terrified at the prospect of nuclear war. But I wanted to know basically what people's thoughts are on whether or not it was a good thing for nuclear bombs to be developed in the first place. I'm interested in knowing what other people's thoughts are, because I know what my thoughts on it are.
I always just wonder that if they nuked Germany instead of Japan, we'd have German anime.
I've heard that theory. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. If that's what you've got to say so far, I actually think about this a lot, and it's something that I think a lot of people who like anime have thought about this question before, just because, specifically the Hiroshima bomb and the what was the other place, the Nagasaki, and it's especially with maybe because it's Japan, or maybe just because it's.
Sorry.
So we got a super chat.
My bad. So, Rose, when you said, I don't know, it just the way you said periods, and you kind of paused after that, I was like, wait, is she really going to No,
No,
don't tell me.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing a Yaniv. I'm not doing.
I know. I just like the way you delivered it. I was like, is she really gonna start identifying with periods now?
Yeah, the chat was like, wait, what? You've traumatized me too much to Yaniv.
Oh, sorry. That was killing me. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think I think I probably feel the same way as Rose does. That I don't know whether it was morally justified to drop the bombs on Japan just because it possibly did save more life along the line. But then I also don't really agree with that utilitarian and sort of view of the world of doing the thing that does the greater good. I don't think it's always justified. But also this idea that having nuclear bombs kind of makes you the police of the world, where you know everybody has to stay in line just so that they don't piss you off too much. Nobody can piss off any other country because they're all allied with someone who has nuclear weapons, and so we have had this period of peace, and there's that word again, sorry. There's been remarkably few deaths due to warfare over the past 75 years. Well, not 75 quite, because after World War II, there was a lot. I know there's been wars, but the death count has been remarkably low compared to pre-World War II era, and it's quite possibly due to nukes. And yet it is also this sword of Damocles that is hanging over all of our heads, where it's very, if civilization gets wiped out in the next 100 years, it'll probably be nuclear war, right? It's not going to be, it could be global warming, but there's really nothing that we know of apart from like a freak asteroid that has that kind of destructive power.
Like, it's what I personally I agree with you in that I think that it is as a result of having nuclear weapons that there hasn't been anything on the scale of World War II since 1945. I mean, that there has naturally still been wars going on, throughout the Cold War, but a lot of these are proxy wars. These are very localized into specific countries, and they're known for that reason. Now, like, history could very easily have turned out completely different. It's not even just referring to something like the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is probably the closest we've ever been to kind of nuclear Armageddon. What I'm referring to more is, let's say, for example, the Korean War, where you had Douglas MacArthur wanting to use tactical nukes against the Chinese. Now, like, that was, that idea was eventually shut down by the president at the time. But had that gone ahead, then you could, like, at that point, I would have said that nuclear weapons would have, like, absolutely have been a moral bad, because something like that would have normalized their usage. And then I think probably, I don't think we probably would have survived up to the end of the millennium had that happened. But because of the idea of mutually assured destruction, like the idea if you invade America or you make Russia or any one of these countries shoots a nuclear, launches a nuclear weapon, that's it. Basically everyone is targeted except New Zealand. Like, that, as terrifying as it is if that goes wrong, and I think that is a very, very scary way to go. The fact that it hasn't happened, and that we didn't see like a World War III where the West kind of pushed in against the Soviet Union, which could have very much have been something which could have happened had nuclear weapons not been invented. Has anyone here ever watched a film called Threads?
Threads? Like
Threads. Threads. I wouldn't be surprised if you hadn't heard of it, Mars. But it's a British film. It's a BBC film, actually. I believe it's from 1982 or 1984. Like, it sounds really ridiculous when you explain the premise, but basically it depicts what would happen to Sheffield if World War III, happened. Which sounds really funny because, like, Sheffield gets hit by, Northern City gets hit by a nuke. Oh, how, heck and all that. But it's actually the scariest film that I've ever watched. Like, it's kind of low budget, but the special effects in it for the time and the amount of money they had is really, really scary, because it's like halfway through the first half of the film is effectively the build up to the war happening, and you see various events happening in the world. I think there's a war with Iran that America gets involved in, and Russia gets involved as well, and then they start like using small nuclear weapons against each other, and like people are watching this on the TV, and like everyone's paying attention to it. And then one day, like there's a like World War III kind of happens, and like, you know, thousands of tons of kilotons or whatever of megatons of bombs drop, and the UK is hit badly, and then like that kind of happens at the halfway point. So the rest of the film is about what happens after the bombs drop, and it consistently gets more and more depressing. It's like you start out with seeing people like shell shocked and like scrubbling for food, and martial law being put in, so there's like executions and stuff. Oh, and now people have to start whoring themselves out in order to get food, which is nothing but rats. They're trying to farm, but nothing is growing. Kids are being born, but their development is severely stunted. And now the kids can't have kids because like they're having stillbirths. It's like it consistently gets more and more depressing. So the point is, like if there's a nuclear war, that things will never go back to normal, and it's genuinely terrified me.
Might check it out. It's a 1984 film. I see it here, but just the movie poster looks. I think this movie might fuck me up a little bit. But yeah, I'll check it out.
What film's that? Friends.
This is it, right? Yeah, it's like. Does that look accurate?
Oh, yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody in the chat is saying that's an old school horror movie, basically.
It kind of is. It kind of is. Like, it feels like it, because it isn't. It's supposed to be more of an educational film. But it is. It's scarier than any horror film I've ever seen. Like,
really?
It is incredibly disturbing. And like, I know that America has a similar film called like The Day After or something with Steve Guttenberg in it. But that by comparison is really quite jolly. Like, I think, like, The Day After ends with people in church kind of being like, you know, like, oh, we're all bombed out and stuff, and we're all injured, but we're all still together, you know. Whereas in Fred's, like, it's just like, how could things get worse? And then like 2 minutes later, it's like, oh shit,
there's no kumbaya.
Things get worse, like consistently. It used to be on YouTube, but they've since taken it down. Probably.
I'll find it somehow.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching, but like stick with it. Like it is, awesome. It's done very, very well, and it even features these real like mini films that the UK government actually commissioned in the 70s called. What's it called? Protect and Survive.
Gotcha.
Which were these little videos that would play prior to a nuclear war, which would tell people like what to do with dead bodies and stuff. And it's kind of done with like little models and that, and it sounds really, really twee, but it has this like really, really creepy jingle that goes along with it. And then when you kind of remember the purpose as to why it was made, it's freaky as hell.
If you want to do a little PSA, I heard that if there's a nuclear bomb, what you should do, if you hear about it, 100 miles away or whatever, what you need to do is fill up your bathtub with water, or just fill up like plastic bags with water, just so that so you get the water in your home before it gets contaminated. But then also, if everyone does that at once, we're all fucked. So maybe that's not a good PSA to put out, but that's what I heard.
The problem with a lot of PSAs concerning nuclear war is that they just wouldn't work afterwards. Like there's the whole like kind of lean-to things which the government over here were telling people to do, which is like, put up a mattress next to a wall far away from a window, and that will help protect you from radiation. And like it probably wouldn't, but also the house would likely just get this demolished by the blast after a couple of seconds anyway.
I think that's the idea, is that if you're outside of the epicenter and your house is only a little bit blasted, being under a mattress is actually a pretty good place to be, because at least you won't get like shards of anything stuck in you. It won't help against the radiation because it's, probably, if your house is falling down on you, it's better that you should be under something.
But like, it's kind of like, how would you prefer to die? By being crushed or by radiation? Like, radiation's a really, really unpleasant way to go. Like, I bet nobody thought that this seal, like this little innocent seal, would muster such a dark conversation.
Okay, well,
it's a surprise evil seal.
To inject some optimism, what I said earlier about humanity being wiped out, that is an overstatement, because if you think about where humanity, originated, and everything that we went through up to modernization, freaking, hunter-gatherer societies where like half your kids would freeze to death in the winters. I mean, it's like for thousands of years, humans survived that way. And despite, nuclear fallout and contaminated water, I think somewhere in some corners of the earth, Madagascar and New Zealand or whatever, there would be pockets of humanity that would survive and maybe even, rise up back to modernity in a new age of humanity. I really think it would take rather a lot to completely wipe out every human on Earth.
Yeah, and somewhere like New Zealand, which would never be targeted anyway because there's just nothing of strategic value there. Like that would be this probably the safest country in the world. Like places in Africa might not necessarily be targeted by nuclear weapons, but when the major powers are kind of destabilized, you could guarantee that there'll be like mass civil war there now that the big guns, the big dogs aren't itching to have a say. Like you would see mass atrocities. So like, by comparison, New Zealand, they just have sheep. They have lots of sheep. So they would come out okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some logic in that, but I'm sure there's some very big brain people who have a better answer to where is the safest place on Earth during a nuclear war.
Liz, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'll start at the end and go backwards. People do tend to be afraid of nuclear war, but I had this conversation a couple of years ago, actually, with a friend of mine, several friends on Facebook freaking out about it. So I went and looked up how many nuclear warheads do each country have, because it is public information. There are estimates because not everybody's honest. So they say, well, this country has between this many and that many. This country has between this many and that many. And nuclear warheads, there are various sizes. This one does this much damage. This one does that much damage, and so on. And I took the maximum estimate. I said, assume everybody has the maximum possible of all of the estimates. Assume every single bomb is the biggest, does the most damage possible. Assume they were all dropped at the same time. Zero overlap and none hitting the sea. There is still not enough to even affect all of the land on Earth. So so you have the epicenter, which is completely destroyed. You have the surrounding area, which is severely, if not permanently, damaged by the radiation. You have further out that is just damaged by the blast, minor radiation, and then even further out that is, very minor damage, but not a lot of damage. There are not enough nukes on Earth to actually even touch every piece of land, even if they were all dropped with zero overlap and none touching the sea.
Does that take into account nuclear winter?
It does not. So there are obviously different. There are a lot of different factors to be considered. But when people say this, if we have nuclear war, it's just going to destroy the whole world. So no, it's really not. It's going to destroy parts of the world, but it's really not going to destroy the whole world by any means. So Poe is right there. We would survive a nuclear holocaust. Yeah. It would be pretty bad, but it's not going to be the end of the world.
It would
Go ahead.
It'd be interesting to see if civilization as we know it survived, even if they were humans, whether we'd have to sort of regress back to, very much more contained, no more division of labor, just sort of living hand to mouth, for a while.
In some places you would, in other places you wouldn't. It would depend on where you are, I would say. And depend on where it's damaged. There again, so many factors. But regarding the bomb itself, I think it was inevitable that it would be invented. So I don't think there was anything good or bad about the invention of the nuclear bomb. I think that was just something was going to be invented eventually. I do not believe it was right to have used, because I don't believe that any weapon of warfare where the person using it knows there will be significant civilian casualties, I don't think that is ever acceptable. And the argument that I've heard when I say this, so many people say, "Oh, but it saved so many lives. We would have lost so many soldiers going, having to do a land invasion and all of that." And I say, okay, what you're saying is it is acceptable to sacrifice civilian lives who did not volunteer in order to save the lives of soldiers who did volunteer. And I'm not okay with that.
And there's also not 100% guarantee that Japan would never have surrendered. Like, because that seems to be a lot of the rhetoric used to kind of support dropping the bombs on both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan wasn't, like, yes, they had very much had like the whole culture of honor and looked down on surrender, but they were still massively outgunned by America, or especially America and the British. They were always going to lose World War II no matter what happened. But
Yes,
what they
Still happy you picked the mystery seal?
The one Japanese general, wasn't it, that said, even before they bombed Pearl Harbor, said, if this is pulling the tail of a sleeping tiger, there were many in the Japanese government that knew they shouldn't attack the US because they would never win.
Yeah. I mean, like, they were always destined to lose World War II. They simply didn't have the right power to actually see it through to the end. Japan was always going to lose. I'm not 100% convinced that they would never have surrendered had the bombs not been dropped, because they were in a very bad state. And also take into account that Japan would especially with the Nazis having fallen, Japan was probably more afraid of the Soviet Union and of communism than they were of America, because the Soviets weren't very far away from Japan. So that would also have been a massive threat to them. And there could well have been a chance that Japan would have surrendered to the Americans, just so it means that they would get American protection against the Soviet Union.
By the way, just noticing in the chat, people keep saying, "Hey, regular bombs kill civilians too." I'm like, yeah, I'm not okay with that either.
No,
if you have a weapon that you know is going to kill significant numbers of civilians, I'm not okay with using it.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Dresden, something.
So does anyone have anything else they'd like to add about nuclear bombs at all?
It's a really interesting topic, and it's the kind of thing that I'd really enjoy discussing. Something on like unpopular opinions, where the opinions are kind of much more. You get a good proper debate going with more pretty insults.
The only thing I'll say is that I agree with Nelson Muntz in that we should nuke the whales.
I mean, like, this is just a topic that I find absolutely fascinating, and it's something that I love to talk about, as weird as it sounds. And
there's a lot of moral angles to it. Yeah,
there's a lot to kind of take into account, because I think that their invention was a good thing because it's led to mutually assured destruction. And that in turn has led to much smaller scale warfare than we would have seen had they not been invented. Like, ultimately, the Soviet Union, the United States did not come to blows directly, where if the nuclear bomb had never been invented, they almost assuredly would have. It's the bomb that stopped them from attacking one another.
We could do a whole stream about game theory, because I know quite a lot about that, and about how the fact that Jeremy Corbyn said he wouldn't push the button was something, possibly the most abhorrent thing a leader could say who wanted peace. But yeah, I think we're wandering slightly off topic there. I think I'll pick my seal now, because I'm not sure what the COVID one's about.
The COVID seal. Let me bring up the seals, and there they are. Look, it is COVID seal. Hello.
I know we still have the coof around, but what is this week's coof news?
The coof.
Have you seen the one? Oh dear, I'm trying to remember.
Yes, the Shaolin sneeze. The I've got a big list of them somewhere.
It's in Wisconsin. I'm sorry.
The whooping cough. That's it.
But did you hear that there was one, oh boy, I can't remember, one city that actually sent a notice out that employees needed to wear masks on Zoom calls.
Oh, yes.
So
I
you're sitting
did
at your
see
home
that,
in front of
actually.
your computer calling in, and you have to wear a mask for the call.
Well, there has also been health advice put out in the UK that it's now advised that you wear face masks during sex.
Yes.
And also,
That's not new, though. I heard that a while ago from
yeah, but like
Great Britain.
they've also said that you should choose positions where your faces are not
Like,
directly in front of each other. Like,
glory holes.
yeah, like it's just really
Oh, that was the joke, wasn't it?
strange.
Well,
Like-
Canada put that out there.
Mm.
Oh, Canada is the glory.
This might be a good time for me to shoot off if this is the kind of quality of conversation we're going to be having. No, I'm just kidding. I do need to go, if that's all right.
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you for dropping in, Per.
Enjoy your COVID chat. I'll be listening, but I won't be joining. Or maybe I'll write in the chat. Look out for me in the chat.
Thanks for joining, Per. See you later. So the COVID news is just going to be a quick one this week, just because I thought we might as well touch on it. So the UK is now in a recession, which seems to have surprised a lot of people who were wondering, wanted to lock down this country for as long as possible, and have now found out that has consequences. And I've seen a lot of people try and make the argument that had we locked down sooner, there wouldn't be as much of a recession. If only we had doubled down more. Yeah, if only we had doubled down on it, then there is they don't think they kind of understand why there's been a drop in GDP. Because if nobody's working, if you've got businesses that have been specifically shut down as a result of this, I mean, like the big layoffs this time aren't necessarily going to be like your banks or your like your kind of like your tech industries. It's going to be more like shops, entertainment, leisure, like the kind of the businesses that have been thoroughly have not been able to open. And there's still businesses in this country which are still not open.
Leisure and retail, leisure and catering have been decimated.
Yeah. Like a lot of these have been thoroughly destroyed. And with the idea that, even stepping foot outside your house, you could get the dreaded COVID and die. It's going to be a very long time before any of these sectors fully recover. Like before this, I was very tempted to kind of, I want to be self-employed eventually. And I would love to have the idea of, kind of opening like a street food stall selling tasty food, like chili, jambalaya, and mac and cheese, like that kind of wholesome foods.
Mac and cheese and ketchup.
Okay, that seriously sounds like cultural appropriation of my culture. Jambalaya and mac and cheese.
But I know. But
I'm joking.
Wonderful food. And
yes, it is wonderful food.
They're like the three best things I can make: chili, jambalaya, and mac and cheese. Like I'm really good. Like I make my mac and cheese. I use a soft sauce. Oh wow, that was a big flash of lightning. I use it's an Italian soft sausage called Nduja. Nduja, and I use that in my mac and cheese, along with chorizo and smoky bacon.
Where's the cheese?
You put in loads of cheese still because it's mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Well, but you haven't mentioned if you're gonna ask.
Oh, because it's the name, it's cheese. It's like I didn't mention there's going to be macaroni in it either.
Fair. Well, just some people had, add extra different layers of cheese, which makes it different.
I had 3 cheeses.
Okay, there we go.
Two of them are Swiss cheeses, like Swiss or German cheeses, and then a bit of Parmesan on the top to crisp up.
That's all I care about. All that other stuff, I don't care.
So, yeah. What's everyone's thoughts on? I guess there's 2 Americans here, so they probably don't have a lot to say about a British recession. Scrump, what do you think of the forthcoming recession?
We've not even seen the worst of it yet, I'm afraid. The government's furlough scheme is still going, and that's keeping a lot of businesses on life support. So is the government's loan scheme as well. Once those 2 things end, we're going to see an even deeper recession. It's going to be quite brutal.
Yeah.
So this does have consequences, and the same people who said we should have locked down earlier, were also screeching that closing the borders back in February was racist.
Right.
Yeah.
It does exactly.
So I think we need a bit of good news now. Don't you, Scrump?
Well, I've got some double good news this week. To follow on from the coronavirus stuff, I've just seen it that I don't have a link handy, but the death toll has actually been revised down by 5,000.
Yes, it has.
So things are not as bad as, again, not as bad as people have been saying. But my main good news story this week is, despite all the lockdowns, despite everything being suspended, we are still making big technological advances, especially with a long-running fusion power project, ITER. The ITER fusion plant, which follows on from the smaller experimental tokamak projects they've been doing there. The building of the big plant is finally underway. This isn't just an experimental plant, by the way. This is one of the first prototypes for an operational plant. They're hoping to actually generate power with this. Hopefully being constructed by 2025. But it is a huge undertaking. It is the biggest, most complicated work of engineering that humans have ever done. And we finally started constructing it. So it's fusion power it's slow going. It's very complicated. There's a lot of discoveries to be made, but we are moving towards that energy freedom future of large amounts of bulk energy with minimal impact. Because that's really, everyone whines about climate change and goes back and forth about what to do about it. But, you know, with fusion power, there'll be no more worry about that, really. It's the holy grail of energy, and we are still inching towards it. So things long term don't look, they don't look that grim. It's also a nice example of international collaboration. Although I'd be worried about having the Chinese involved in that, since they seem to steal everything. It's an amazing work of engineering, and this month they have begun the actual assembly of the reactor. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, things aren't so bad, guys. Don't get too freaked in or scared.
So I remember somebody in the chat said that they'd made a straw poll to see who gets the seal of approval. Oh, damn it, I can't remember who it was. Is it?
They might not even be here right now.
Yeah, I really hope they are. Like, if you're here, could you post the link in the comments, please, so I can see it.
We are reliant on chat now. This is how far we've fallen.
Well, this is chat interaction. This is an interactive show after all. People.
Please, chat, help us, chat.
Help
so
us.
Organized, please. Oh dear. No, it's
God. I'm sorry. I should have.
While we're waiting, shall we get up the seal of the week then?
Yes. So the seal of the week has a bit of a story. It's Free Toaster who says here is the poll. But I can't see the link.
Yeah, they can't post links in chat.
Oh, God damn it!
Maybe he could put it on Twitter.
God, yeah. If you have Twitter, try and tweet it to me.
Yeah, it's the anti-spam thing. People can't post links in chat.
Well, if I can't see it, then maybe next week.
You might have to just do a vote, like a call-out vote.
Yeah, let's just do a call-out vote. So everyone type. Thanks for doing it, Toaster. I need to be much more organized. I am very sorry about this. But people can put in the comments who you think wins. Oh wait.
There it is. They've got it. They've got it there. There we go. You can probably post it in chat with your mod powers, but it's remove the space there and it should work. Oh, it says not found. Remove the % sign as well, I think. Oop, that doesn't work either. Oh dear. I'm trying here, guys. I'm trying. Yeah, there we go. I've got it working. Okay. Let me put it in the chat so you can actually copy and paste it properly. The private chat here, I can't post the public chat, but there it is. That's the poll. So send it to the people in the chat. That was a bit roundabout, but we got it.
Yep. Awesome. Hopefully I can. Yeah, there we go. So there's the link. There's the link. So get voting on who you think should get the seal of approval. And so in the meantime, whilst that's going on, let me tell you a story about this week's seal. So recently I got myself a car, and I've been doing a lot of driving because, I've been moved out of London and it's great. And I went on a drive to Colwyn Bay in North Wales because I wanted to go to the sea. And whilst I was at the sea, I saw something in the sea. And it was this. It was this. So, let me try and zoom in as much as possible.
It's Bigfoot.
Oh. It's now gone into kind of like a...
open it in a new tab and then zoom in on it.
Yes, good idea. That would be much better. Right. Okay. Was it work now?
There you go. Well, what am I... Oh, okay.
It's the second gunman on the grassy knoll.
Look at that.
What is that?
Is it a seal?
It's a seal.
Are you sure it's a seal?
Are you sure it's not just a plastic bag?
That's what I'm thinking.
No, it's definitely a seal, because the seal, it was like it would pop up for about 10 seconds or so, and then he would dive underwater.
So you're saying you're like the seal whisperer?
I saw a seal and I wanted to share it with everyone and be like, look at this wholesome seal.
Have you ever touched a seal?
No, I don't think I have.
Wow, that's wild. I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Just make sure you get consent first. Don't go all Biden on it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So with that, do you want to go to the results?
Yes, with the seal of the week this week is unfortunately a single pixel, but we'll take your word for it.
Right. So drum roll for the the winner is Scrump.
Yes, victory is mine. You will all suffer under my reign of. I mean, what?
So Scrump with 7 votes, followed by Liz with 6, Mars and Poe with 4, and then I win this week's loser.
Wow.
Screw you. Screw you, Scrump. Screw you.
3. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Points. Big lead points.
There's a few more super chats to read out. So Sam Callahan with the £2. I've waited years for Joe Savile's run for office.
Very shawwaddy there.
Oh God, yes. Jedi Knight Anna Quinn Cringe Walker with another $5. Thank you. Check out DoD's multiple kill vehicle. It will likely make ICBMs obsolete in the next few years. We're in no man's land after that for modern war. The multiple kill vehicle. And Mr. Floppy Knickers again with the $5. Without N-bombs, we have no Godzilla movies, post-apocalyptic games, mutant comics or stories, or Big D America Energy. Hopefully someday we get Catgirls. Scrump, what do you think?
Yes, I do hope we get Catgirls. We need genetically engineered Catgirls.
Rose got us all hungry, so she got punished. Also, someone asked me if I've ever... I would never eat seal meat. That's wrong. And Sonny Jim says that he cycled all around the coast of Scotland and didn't see a single seal. That is...
wow.
N-bomb. Love a good N-bomb. All right, so just before we end, does anyone have anything else they'd like to shill? Mars, you have an interview coming up on your channel with a detransitioner, I believe.
Yeah, it's not going to be a live stream, though. It's pre-recorded, and I'll probably post it later today. But yeah, that's what I'm doing in an hour.
Liz, anything on your channel?
No, I really should try to get something done while I'm in my slower season, but I'm just enjoying having the time off.
I currently have nothing to shill as well because Dev's internet has been a pig, so we haven't been able to record. And I had a hard drive failure, so the new show I'm developing has been further delayed, as is usually the case. But if you really want to see some spicy memes, you can follow me on Parler, even though I'm kind of getting disgruntled with Parler as a platform. Or you can join my Discord. I'm sure there'll be a link to it somewhere. You can just bother somebody.
And so, yeah, I had a video out yesterday. From what I understand, notifications didn't go out for it for a lot of people. And so just to remind people that it is out there. I'm aiming to get another video out in the next few days because I've noticed some things going down with mermaids, which seems quite spicy. So I'd quite like to talk about that. So look out for that. So otherwise, thanks to Liz and Mars for being my guests, as well as Poe, if she's still watching, of course. Thanks to
sorry.
As well. No.
No, your little emblem here, seal of approval thing. You should put it on a mug so I can buy it.
I will put this on. There will be more seal of approval merch coming out. So people keep an eye out for that. So yeah, thanks to my guests for coming on, Mars, Liz, and Poe. Thanks to Scrump as the ever co-host guy.
Yes, I am the ever co-host guy.
And yeah. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.